After Dad died, everything collapsed like one of the cardboard models I used to build. You try to keep it together, glue down the corners, but the whole thing just folds in on itself eventually. Mom couldn't afford the house in Henderson, Nevada anymore. Within a month, we were packing everything we owned into the back of a rented U-Haul and heading northwest to Brookings, Oregon. I didn't know anything about the town except that it was near the ocean and it rained a lot. We moved into a small duplex near the highway. 2 bedrooms, creaky floors, and a heater that clicked for 10 minutes before doing anything useful. Mom worked almost constantly, day shifts cleaning offices, then straight to night shifts at the Redwood Motel. That left me and Jenna, my cousin, to manage the rest of life. Jenna had dropped out of college in California. Something about burnout or a toxic roommate situation. I didn't ask much. She came to help us out, but really I think she needed the reset too. She was 23, wore ripped jeans and flannels, and said, "my guy," every other sentence like it was punctuation. But she was the only person who really talked to me since the move, so I didn't mind. I spent most of my time in my room, building tiny things out of garbage, models, makeshift robots, towers from toothpicks and glue. My closet was overflowing with materials. Wires, cardboard, plastic lids, broken toys, stripped motors from old RC cars. That Saturday morning, Jenna stood in the doorway with her arms crossed, shaking her head. "You need to organize this crap before it comes alive and eats you," she said. I laughed barely. "It's organized in my head." "Yeah, well, unless your brain has shelves, we need a box, a big one." We tried Walmart. The ones big enough were like $25, which might as well have been $100 in our world. Jenna scrolled through Craigslist later that afternoon. She mumbled through listings like a detective. "Nope, too far, sketchy. Ooh, this guy's selling a 50-gallon tote for $5. She clicked on the ad. One photo, looked decent, big, blue, dusty. The guy's name was Dennis. His message said it was lightly used and ideal for storage or organization. Jenna messaged him. He replied within 20 minutes, said we could meet that Sunday evening at 7:40 p.m. at the back entrance of the Safeway on Oregon Street. Not the front lot, the back, where trucks unloaded. Jenna raised an eyebrow. Bit odd, but it's public enough. She made me promise I'd stay in the car. I'd check it out. "I'm serious, Milo. People are weird. Just sit tight while that's Sunday." Clouds pressed low over the town. It was cold and damp, and the whole place smelled like wet pavement and pine needles. We pulled into the back lot of Safeway. Empty except for one crookedly parked white van, no markings. Its back doors were shut tight. He came out a minute later. Gray sweatshirt, baggy jeans. The way he walked, knees stiff, arms hanging strangely, made my skin prickle. Jenna got out and waved. "You the ones for the tote?" he asked. "Yep, you got it?" He nodded and opened the van. Inside were tools, gas cans, a rusted lawnmower, and several large Rubbermaid totes. Nothing illegal, but nothing exactly right either. I leaned forward in the car. Something inside the van caught my eye. Shoes. Kids' shoes. Not just one pair, at least 5, different sizes. All shoved against the van's side like garbage. I texted Jenna fast, "Don't go in, shoes in the van." She looked at her phone mid-sentence, then straightened up. "We're good, actually," she said, forcing a polite smile. "Not big enough. Thanks, though." Dennis just stood there. "It's 50 gallons, says on the label." "Yeah, just not what we're after," Jenna said, stepping backward. Then he tilted his head. "Didn't you say your cousin's name was Milo?" She hadn't. Not once. Jenna turned fast, got in, locked the doors. I heard her breath catch in her throat as she started the engine. "He was watching us," she said, "before we even got there." We didn't talk after that. Just drove. Quiet. Back at the duplex, the light over our porch flickered like it always did, buzzing faintly. Jenna got out of the car first, checking the street both ways. I followed close behind, adrenaline still tingling in my chest. Inside, we shut the blinds and double-locked the door. She paced the living room for a while. I sat on the couch, hugging a throw pillow like a shield. "You okay?" I asked. "No, she said bluntly, with me when I messaged him. That guy knew your name, Milo. I didn't even mention I had someone, but how would he? I don't know. We decided not to tell Mom. If she knew, she'd freak, quit one of her jobs, and then we'd be back to counting cans of soup for dinner. Jenna kept saying it was probably a fluke, a creepy dude who guessed something right. That night I didn't sleep much. Every creak in the house felt louder. At one point, I thought I heard gravel crunching outside my window. I told myself it was the neighbor's cat. The next morning was gray and still. Gloria Whitman, the elderly neighbor across the street, was already outside watering her dead roses with a green plastic jug. She didn't speak much, but she watched everything, like a human security camera. I used to think she was nosy. Now I kind of appreciated it. That evening, around dusk, someone knocked. Jenna peeked out the peephole, then opened the door a crack. It was Gloria, in her pink bathrobe and foam slippers. "You folks expecting someone?" she asked. Jenna frowned. "No, why?" "I seen a man in your backyard. Twice now, just standing by the trees. Thought you should know." I swear I felt the blood drain from my arms. Jenna's eyes darkened. "When?" she asked. "Last night and just a bit ago. Might have been the same fella. Hard to say. Kinda hunched, wore gray. Didn't look like he belonged." "Did you call anyone?" Jenna asked. Gloria squinted. "Figured I'd tell you first, but I will, if he comes back." After she left, Jenna locked all the windows. She pulled the baseball bat from Mom's closet and leaned it by the front door. We called the police. They came by half an hour later. 2 officers. One walked the property, the other asked questions. "Could be a deer," one of them said, glancing around. "Close to the highway, or someone passing through." I wanted to scream. Jenna didn't. She just nodded and said thanks. The next day passed slowly. At school, I could barely focus. I kept checking over my shoulder, convinced someone was following me down the hall. Every time a teacher called my name for attendance, it jolted me. Not because I wasn't used to hearing it, but because now I wondered who else knew it. When I got home, Jenna was already in the kitchen heating up boxed mac and cheese. She didn't say much. Her eyes were puffy, like she hadn't slept either. We sat in silence, picking at dinner while some reality show played quietly on the TV. At 9:13 p.m., the doorbell rang. We both froze. Jenna mouthed, "Don't move." She crept to the peephole, then turned and whispered, "No one's there." A chill ran through me. The doorbell rang again, this time twice in a row, rapid. Jenna flung open the door, bat in hand. The porch was empty. But sitting in the middle of the welcome mat was a Rubbermaid tote. Same kind, same size, same dull blue plastic. The label still read 50 gal in faded marker. It was closed. No note. No markings. "Don't touch it," I said, stepping behind her. Jenna looked around. No car sounds, no footsteps. How the hell? She called the police again. They sent a different officer this time. Younger, more polite. "Could be a prank," he offered after peeking in the tote and finding it empty. Sometimes. Especially to folks new in town. Happens Jenna didn't buy it. Neither did I. That night she moved the tote into the garage with gloves on. Then she dragged an old folding chair into my room and slept in it. She said she didn't trust her own room, not with the back window facing the trees. I didn't sleep at all. I just stared at the ceiling and waited for the next thing. Wednesday came and went without incident. It almost felt normal, until around 5:30 p.m., when I went out front to check the mail and noticed a piece of yellow string tied around the handle of our mailbox. It wasn't tape, not a label, just string, knotted tight, like someone had been there and left a signal. I didn't touch it. I backed up and ran inside. Jenna didn't speak when I told her. She just exhaled through her nose, then grabbed her phone and took a picture of it. "We need to go," she said after a minute. "Where?" "Anywhere but here." She messaged Mom, told her we were going to the library for a while. In reality, we drove to the other side of town and parked in the high school lot. Sat there in the car, windows cracked, Jenna's hand resting on the bat in the passenger seat. "I keep thinking," she said after a long silence. "What if he wrote down the plate number that night? Or took a picture? What if he's not just some guy trying to sell a storage box? What if he's done this before?" I said quietly. She didn't answer. At 7:02 p.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You forgot your box." She stared at the screen for a long time. Then she blocked the number and turned the phone off completely. "I'm reporting this again," she muttered. "And we're leaving town this weekend. I'll figure it out." We didn't go home until almost 10. Gloria was still up, porch light on, a flashlight in hand. She waved us down. "Cops came by while you were out," she said. "Check the alley. Guess what they found?" "What?" Jenna asked. "Footprints in the mud by your fence. Not fresh, but not old either. We didn't sleep that night. We just sat on the couch with every light on. I tried to read, but I couldn't concentrate. Jenna kept checking the windows, walking slow, bat always close by." Chapter 5. Saturday morning, Jenna packed a duffel bag. She didn't tell Mom yet, just said we were going to stay with a friend in Crescent City for a few days. Somewhere with more people, more light. Somewhere he wasn't. I loaded my backpack with clothes and model parts. As we backed out of the driveway, I glanced down the street. The white van was parked across from Gloria's house. No driver, no movement. Just there. "Don't look," Jenna said, turning fast. "Just keep your head down." We drove straight to Crescent City and stayed with one of Jenna's old college friends. It wasn't glamorous, bare mattress, dishes in the sink, but it felt safe. For the first time in weeks, I slept all the way through the night. 2 days later, Mom called. She was panicking. There was a break-in, she said, was open. The police think it was just a kid. The back window, shattered. Nothing stolen, but the garage we knew better. When we got home a few days later, the tote was gone from the garage, but Jenna never deleted the photos, the ad, the message, the shoes in the van. She printed everything and left it in a manila folder marked, "In case something happens." A month passed, no more sightings, no texts, no boxes. But every time I walked home from school, I checked every parked van, every corner, and I never answered the door again if I didn't know who it was. That feeling you get when something feels off? That's not fear, it's your body keeping you alive. Whether it's a Craigslist ad, a late-night knock, or a stranger who says your name when they shouldn't know it, your safety matters more than politeness, more than the deal, more than the explanation. No storage box is ever worth becoming one. Long before I found myself standing in a Wendy's parking lot holding 85 crumpled dollars, I was someone who still believed things had a way of working out. I wasn't naive, just stubborn. I held on to hope the way some people hold on to pride, tight, too tight, until it leaves marks. I'd been working at the same call center for 5 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. Then came April, reduced hours. Then May, total layoff. By June, my account balance dipped into a number that made my chest hurt every time I looked at it. And then my son's laptop died. That old school loaner Chromebook that had barely survived the spring semester gave up completely. Jamie needed it for his summer learning program. He was 10, quiet, thoughtful, always scribbling something in his notebook. He loved tech and hated crowds, and he hated asking for help, especially from me. "I can do it on my phone," he'd said, already trying to act grown when I told him the Chromebook was toast. "You can't write stories on a phone, baby." "I can try." That night, after he went to bed, I sat on our couch scrolling Craigslist. My cousin Sierra had warned me about buying off there. "They got killers and scammers on there, Tash. People getting kidnapped over TVs and couches. You want your picture on the news for a laptop?" I laughed, but not because it was funny, because I was out of options. Craigslist wasn't the last resort, it was the only resort. I found the ad at 1:07 a.m. HP Pavilion laptop, light use only, $85. Factory reset. Comes with charger, perfect for student use. It looked clean. Said pickup was in Macon. The guy, Chris G., responded to my message within minutes. Still available. Moving to Tallahassee tomorrow. Can meet at Wendy's on Pio Nono, 3:15 p.m. I told Sierra. She immediately said, "I'm coming with you." And that's how I found myself 2 days later, gripping my purse and trying not to sweat through my shirt in a Wendy's parking lot, while Jamie kicked his feet in the back seat and Sierra gave the world her best side-eye. The guy pulled up right on time. Gray Nissan, tinted windows, a little dusty. He stepped out in a red t-shirt and jeans, shaved head, sunglasses on like he was still hiding from someone. "Y'all here for the pavilion?" he asked, holding a black laptop sleeve like it was an afterthought. "That's us," I said. I kept my voice calm, but firm. Sierra didn't say anything. She just leaned against the passenger door with her arms crossed. Jamie watched from the back seat like he was trying to scan Chris's whole face and pull up a report on him. Chris opened the sleeve, pulled out the laptop. HP. Black. Thin. It didn't look fancy, but it didn't look fake either. He powered it on. The screen lit up. Windows logo. Battery said 93%. I used it for online classes during COVID. Factory reset it last week. Just need the cash. Moving out tonight. "Got the charger?" I asked. He handed it to me without a pause. Standard plug, not frayed. He even plugged it into his car's inverter and showed it charging. "You can test it out more if you want," he offered. Sierra finally spoke. "Why you selling it so cheap?" Chris laughed. "Ain't got time to play price games. Just trying to clear stuff out fast." It was a solid answer. I counted out the money. 5 20s, a 10, and a 5. He didn't even double check it, just shoved it in his pocket. "Y'all take care," he said, backing up with a quick nod. He pulled off with a dusty screech. I glanced at Sierra. "Well?" I asked. "I still don't trust it," she said. "Here. Hope it helps your kid." But it boots. And he didn't try anything stupid. "Let's get out." Jamie held that laptop like it was made of glass the entire ride home. The first 2 days were golden. Jamie opened the thing before he even took his shoes off. He found a way to install his writing program, even pulled up a free typing tutorial. He wrote a short story, 10 pages long, about a robot who wanted to be a poet. I watched him tap away at the keys and remembered what it felt like to see your kid light up from the inside. "You okay, Mom?" he asked that night after dinner. "Yeah, baby," I said. "Just happy." By the second night, he was emailing his cousin and researching space facts again. I started to think maybe Craigslist wasn't so bad after all. Maybe people like Chris were just trying to get by like the rest of us. Then came day 3. I was folding laundry when Jamie walked out of his room slowly, laptop in both hands, face pale. "Mom, what is it?" It just shut off, then came back. Now it's asking for something. A BitLocker recovery key? I frowned. "What's that mean?" He turned the screen to show me. Plain blue screen, white letters. "Enter BitLocker recovery key to unlock this drive." We tried rebooting. Same message. I Googled it on my phone. "Looks like it's a security thing," I said. "Account." "Can we call him?" Jamie asked. "Needs a key tied to the original owner's Microsoft." I tried. Disconnected. His Craigslist page? Gone. We drove to a local computer shop. The tech guy, a tired college kid with bitten nails, glanced at the screen and gave us the kind of look doctors give in movies when they know something's terminal. "Yeah, you're locked out," he said. "Happens a lot. People sell off corporate laptops or stolen ones, and the system kicks in later. Recovery keys only available to whoever originally set it up." "How much to fix?" "Maybe $150, but even then, no guarantee." I didn't even have 50. Jamie didn't cry. He just nodded and handed me the laptop like it was already dead. We were quiet the whole ride home. Sierra called me that night. I told her what happened. "We should have checked more," she snapped. Damn trusting. Made him log in, made him show ID. We were too. "I just wanted it to be real," I said. The silence hung there for a long time. 3 weeks passed. I worked late braiding hair, took extra DoorDash shifts, skipped lunch more than once. I found an old Kindle tablet and tried to get Jamie's work to run on it. It was slow, but he made do. He always made do. Then on a Tuesday, Sierra texted me a screenshot. Craigslist listing. Dell XPS, light use only, $90, moving to Savannah tomorrow. Can meet at Wendy's lot, P.O. Nono. Different name, different photos, same language, same scam. I stared at the screen for a long time, not sure if I was angrier at him or myself. I'm reporting it, Sierra said. I didn't stop her. But even if they caught him, the money was gone. Jamie's summer program was almost over. We'd missed our shot. Again. Sometimes when I open my closet, I still see the laptop. It sits there, tucked under a stack of towels. A monument to what happens when hope meets hustle and gets caught in the middle. I didn't throw it out. Not because I can't let go, but because I won't forget. Not what it cost me. Not what it taught me. I've learned to ask more questions, to trust my gut even when it's inconvenient, to check serial numbers, to make sellers log in, to get receipts, even on a parking lot deal. And I've learned that when you're broke, everything feels like a lifeline. Every deal, every job, every maybe. But sometimes that rope is wrapped around a hook. I don't hate Chris G. I don't even know if that's his real name. Maybe he needed the money just like me. Maybe he didn't care who he hurt. Doesn't matter. What matters is what I do next. I saved again. Bought Jamie a refurbished laptop from a certified store 3 months later. It wasn't fancy, but it worked. He's writing again. Says he wants to make video games someday. I told him he can do anything, long as he keeps his eyes open. That's the moral of it all, I think. Hope's not a bad thing. But hope without caution? That's how people fall. And next time, I'll bring more than cash and company. I'll bring questions. I'll bring receipts. Because this world doesn't owe you fairness. Sometimes it only gives you lessons. I'd always had a soft spot for old things. Frames with chipped corners, hand-painted teacups, anything that looked like it had a story. That probably came from my grandmother. She used to say, "Things that last a lifetime always carry a little bit of soul." I don't know if that's true, but after my breakup with Drew, I was clinging to anything that felt solid. I moved into the rental in Santa Rosa at the end of September. It was a little place tucked behind a row of walnut trees, half a duplex with scuffed hardwood floors and a porch swing that creaked when no one was sitting in it. It was quiet, and it was mine. After 3 years of sharing a one-bedroom apartment with a man who slowly made me feel like I took up too much space, even silence felt like freedom. But freedom's expensive, especially when you're freelancing in interior design during a slow season and trying to furnish a home from scratch. I didn't have the money for West Elm or Pottery Barn. Most days I scrolled Craigslist with my coffee, looking for secondhand pieces that didn't look haunted. Funny how that word sticks in your head. It was a Saturday morning, cold enough for socks but too early for heat. I was curled up on my floor mattress when I saw it, a Craigslist ad titled, "Antique Mirror, $80, must pick up tonight." The photos weren't professional, but the mirror was beautiful. Tall, probably 6 feet, with a dark oak frame carved into vines and lilies. Definitely Art Nouveau. It looked like something you'd see behind the counter in an old apothecary, the kind of thing I would have never afforded new. The seller listed herself as Marla J. The message said, "Still available, must pick up tonight. Bring help. Heavy. Cash only." That part made me pause. I'd messaged Craigslist sellers before. Most of them were laid back, even flaky. This felt urgent, like she needed it gone. Still, the price was right, and I hadn't treated myself to anything beautiful since moving in. I messaged her asking for the address. Red Creek Road, past mile marker 42. Look for a white mailbox, long gravel driveway. The name of the road rang a bell, but not in a warm way. It was one of those places that wasn't quite in town and not quite out. I hesitated. Then I did what women always do when we go places alone. We make a plan. I texted my sister, going to pick up a mirror, little outside town. I'll text when I'm home. She replied with a thumbs up and a warning. If it smells like murder, leave. I laughed, out loud even, but I still brought my pepper spray and a flashlight just in case. I left at 6:30 with the mirror on my mind and a 20 tucked in my front pocket. The sun was low when I hit the edge of town. I passed quiet roads, thick vines, barns that looked abandoned. It was beautiful in that slightly eerie way California countryside can be. But by the time I saw that white mailbox, bent sideways like someone had hit it with a truck, I didn't feel like laughing anymore. The gravel road wound through a corridor of trees that seemed too dense for the season. My headlights barely cut through the shadows, and just when I thought about turning around, the woods opened up into a small clearing, a one-story house, probably post-war construction, with peeling paint and a dim porch light. No cars in sight, no sound, just the house and me. I pulled up slowly and parked. The trees leaned in like they were listening. I texted Marla, "Here." No reply. And then, like a scene out of something I'd always roll my eyes at, a man stepped out from the front door. He wore overalls and a denim jacket. His hair was gray at the temples, but not old. He looked like someone who chopped wood for fun. He just stood there staring until I rolled my window down. "You here for the mirror?" he asked. Flat voice, barely a blink. "Yeah. Is Marla here?" "She's inside," he said, stepping back. "I'm her brother." Wade. That's when the cold hit me. The air had been mild all day, but in that moment it turned sharp. Still, I got out. Because I didn't want to be rude. Because the mirror was too good a deal. Because I didn't want to seem scared. I walked up the porch steps slowly, noticing how the wood groaned beneath my boots. He didn't open the door wider, just turned and walked in, expecting me to follow. And I did, even though every instinct I had was already whispering not to. The smell hit me first, musty like damp wood and old carpet that had been left to rot. Not unbearable, but sharp. Not what I expected from someone selling antiques. Inside, the house was darker than it should have been. One bulb lit the living room, hanging from a fixture with no cover. The light flickered slightly, buzzing faintly. There were no rugs, no curtains, just bare windows and yellowed walls. The furniture, if you could call it that, was a folding chair and a crooked side table. Not even dusted. It didn't feel like someone had lived here. It felt like someone had been here. Recently, just long enough to unlock the door. "She's in the back," Wade said, not looking at me. He pointed down a hallway that seemed to go too far for the size of the house. I hovered near the doorway, not ready to step in all the way. "Is Marla okay?" "She's resting. Long day." His voice was even, like he was reciting a script. "You all ready?" Mirrors set up for I swallowed and took a step inside. My boots made soft thumps on the wood. Wade didn't move or follow right away, but I could feel his eyes. I glanced around for signs of life. Shoes, a purse, a coat hanging by the door. Nothing. No smell of food. No hum of a fridge. Just emptiness. The hallway was narrow, walls bare. There was a door slightly ajar at the end with a dim, amber glow coming through. I walked slower now. The air felt heavier somehow, like the house had exhaled and was waiting to breathe again. As I reached the door, I looked back. Wade was there. Closer than before. Just standing silently behind me like he'd drifted forward without a sound. I turned back and stepped into the room. There was no Marla. No furniture, no windows. Just the mirror. It stood on the far wall, taller than I remembered from the pictures, leaned slightly forward like someone had just finished adjusting it. The frame was even more beautiful up close. Worn oak with lilies and vines carved deep into the wood. But it was the glass that made me pause. Because it wasn't reflecting me. Not right away anyway. It was dark, like looking through tinted glass, and then, slowly, it caught the shape of the room. And me. But behind the reflection, I saw smudges, palm prints, from the inside of the mirror, as if someone had been pushing to get out. And then I saw the note. Taped to the upper right corner was a yellow sticky note, edges curled. Don't turn around. Walk out. Fast. I stood frozen, heart thudding in my ears. I could hear Wade's breathing now, closer. Something primal inside me finally kicked in. I turned my head slightly. Where's Marla exactly? She's resting, he repeated. No inflection, no movement. I smiled, something instinctive, polite. Oh, okay, I think I left my cash in the Jeep. He didn't say a word, just stood there, blocking half the hallway behind me. I nodded, my hand gripping my phone inside my coat pocket. Just 1 second. I turned and walked slowly, calmly, back toward the front. No sudden movements, just polite distance. He didn't follow, not yet. Outside, the cold air slapped my face. It was almost a relief. I walked a wide loop around the Jeep, like I was searching for something in the back seat. I didn't look at the house. I didn't check to see if Wade was behind me. I got in fast, locked the doors. My hands shook as I pushed the key into the ignition. The porch light buzzed again. Still no sound from inside. I reversed quick and didn't stop until I hit the main road. That's when I saw it. In the trees just before the road opened up, hidden behind a few thick branches, was a steel burn barrel. Still smoldering. Pale smoke curling up toward the dark sky. Inside were scraps of blackened wood, melted plastic, and something that looked off. I slowed down for a split second. There was a purse in there, or what was left of one. Red leather, buckled front, exactly like the kind I used to see at vintage stores. I didn't stop. I didn't take a picture. I didn't want to look longer than I had. I just drove. Fast. I didn't call 911 right away. I didn't even speak until I was back in town, parked in front of a gas station, breathing hard into my hands. Then I made the call, told the dispatcher everything. The mirror, the man, the address, the note. I left out how scared I'd been, how stupid I felt. When I got home, I didn't sleep. I left every light on. My cat hid under the bed and wouldn't come out. 2 days later, a deputy called me back. The house was empty, furniture gone, no sign of a mirror, no sign of Wade, no Marla J. in the county registry. The listing was gone too, deleted, like it had never been there. Could have been a squatter or someone using a fake name, the deputy said. File the report. Hard to say, Will. That was it. Nothing more they could do. I still had the sticky note. I'd shoved it in my coat pocket without thinking. I found it that night and taped it to my fridge. Not as a souvenir, as a warning. I stopped using Craigslist after that. Went back to big box stores and digital catalogs, Etsy, Facebook Marketplace, if I really needed a deal, but only porch pickups, only public places. And I never, ever bought another mirror. I thought I'd forget. That's what people assume after close calls. You get through it, go home, maybe talk about it once or twice, and then the days blur and your life continues. But the body remembers. Mine did anyway. The following week I couldn't sleep. Not deeply. I kept waking at 3 or 4 a.m. thinking I heard footsteps. Floor creaks, doors shifting. I'd lie there with my hand clenched around my phone under the blanket, the blue light flickering against the ceiling. I unboxed the door camera I'd bought last year but never installed. I set it up the next day. It didn't help me sleep, but I needed to know if anyone came near that door again. Luis, my neighbor from across the hall, knocked one morning while I was sorting through leftover paint swatches in the entryway. He was holding a coffee and wearing the same hoodie I'd seen him in most mornings. We'd never talked before beyond a nod in the hallway. "You all right?" he asked, voice low. I blinked at him. "Yeah. Why?" "I saw you the other night. You came back fast, looked pale. Just weird vibe." Then 2 nights later, I saw a white pickup circling the lot. Slow. No lights. Figured I should say something. That was the first time I told someone the full story out loud. Not just the police version, but everything. The smell of the house, the fake normalcy, the sticky note, the mirror. Luis didn't react with disbelief. He just listened, eyes steady. When I finished, he nodded once and said, "Yeah, that wasn't a seller. That was a setup." The word setup settled in my stomach like a stone. "Craigslist is like rolling dice," he said, "on you thinking they are. Most folks are normal, but some aren't, and they count." After that, he started checking in more. Small things. Waving when I got home. Tapping once on the wall between our apartments before bed. It helped more than I expected. I found myself walking through the house differently too. Slower. Checking corners. Watching reflections. The mirror stayed in my mind like a thorn I couldn't pull out. Not just because of what almost happened, but because someone had left a note. Someone before me. Someone who didn't get out. It took me 3 months before I could go into a thrift store again. Even then, I stuck to clothes and kitchenware. No furniture, no glass. I'd look past the mirrors like they were open doors to places I didn't want to visit. In January, I finally gave in and bought a small mirror for the bathroom. From Target. New. Sealed. Still, I kept it covered for the first week, like it had to earn my trust. One night, while brushing my teeth, I noticed my own reflection looking off. Not scary, just tired. My eyes were sunken, my shoulders hunched. I hadn't realized how small I'd made myself, how careful. That's when it hit me. What scared me the most wasn't Wade, or the house, or the mirror. It was how easy it had been for someone to learn just enough about me to set the trap. A vulnerable woman redecorating after a breakup, on a budget, looking for charm, willing to drive a little too far if the price was right. I'd handed that story to the internet without realizing, through social posts, through Craigslist messages, breadcrumbs, all out in the open. That's what Wade, or whoever he was, used. That's how predators work. They don't chase, they wait. And they smile. I kept the sticky note. It's still on my fridge. Faded now, curling at the corners. I've thought about throwing it away more than once, but I can't. Because someone left it for me. A stranger who never got the chance to walk out. A warning that came just in time. If I hadn't looked close, if I'd turned my back to the mirror, I don't know what would have happened. I don't want to know. I never replied to another Craigslist listing. I moved again after my lease ended, closer to family, brighter windows, a neighborhood with sidewalks and streetlights that actually work. I still decorate, still love old things, but now I care just as much about where they come from as how they look. The past leaves fingerprints, and sometimes those prints aren't on the surface. They're pressed into the spaces no one thinks to clean. Sometimes the most dangerous things don't come with warnings, they come with offers. And sometimes the difference between a good deal and a trap is just one moment of gut instinct. Listen to it. Trust your fear when it whispers. Because survival isn't about being brave. It's about being careful and walking away when something doesn't feel right, even if it's just a mirror. Long before I met Mr. Kinney, I was already drowning, just not the kind anyone sees from the outside. I was 22 and broke. Not metaphorically broke. Not watching my budget broke. I had $9.47 to my name and half a pack of ramen left in Calvin's pantry. Calvin's my cousin, older by 3 years, already working full-time at a sheet metal shop, already annoyed I was crashing on his couch for just a few days, which had somehow become 3 weeks. We weren't close, but I didn't have many people left to ask. He let me stay under one condition: don't drag in any weird Craigslist crap. That morning I opened every gig app on my phone. Nothing. Nobody wanted a guy who dropped out of Lackawanna College after one semester and didn't even finish his last warehouse job because they restructured. I was tired of lying in messages, pretending to be someone worth hiring. Then I saw it. Help needed. Light outdoor work. $100 cash. Lunch included. Must be okay with dogs. 3 to 4 hours max. No experience required. Call before 10 a.m. I stared at it for a while. It felt like bait, but I was hungry enough to bite. I called. The voice on the other end was warm, almost like a retired teacher. Theo, is it? I'm Mr. Kinney. You sound polite. That's rare these days. Ah, thank you for calling. He said it was simple yard work. Clearing vines, moving old fencing panels. He added, I make soup from scratch, don't worry. Nothing weird. You'll be well fed. That's when I should have hung up. The fact that he felt the need to say nothing weird. But I didn't, because I needed the money. The house was off West Mountain Road, tucked into the edge of the woods. Not isolated exactly, but far enough that if you screamed, nobody would hear unless they were already on the porch. The driveway was gravel, long with weeds curling in from both sides. His house looked tired. The paint was chipped and the gutters were sagging. A massive dog barked from behind a side gate, loud, hoarse, and chained. Kinney opened the door wearing tucked-in slacks and an ironed shirt, like he'd been expecting a guest, not a laborer. Theo, right? He said, smiling like we were old friends. You look young. That's good. Energy matters. I nodded, half smiling. He handed me gloves that looked older than me and pointed toward the overgrown backyard. Start with the vines near the fence, the ones with the thorns. Just take your time. The dog barked again, and he added, Don't mind Sherman, he's all noise. I got to work. The gloves were too thin and the vines were more like brambles, thick, wiry, clinging to my sleeves. Twice I cut my hands, the sting sharp, the blood quick. After maybe 40 minutes, Kinney brought me lemonade in a glass cup. Not a bottle, not a plastic cup. Like it was a tea party. You can take breaks inside if it gets too hot, he said. Sherman's chained, he won't bite. But I didn't want to go inside. Not yet. Something about the house made my skin crawl. Still, I needed the 100, so I kept working. The sun climbed high and slow, baking the yard in sticky humidity. The dog barked less now, probably bored of me. I had almost cleared half the fence line when Kinney came out again, this time without lemonade, just questions. You close with your family, Theo? He asked, like he was a therapist. Not really, I said, pulling a vine from under the fence. Well, girlfriend? Nope. He nodded like that meant something. Sometimes it's easier alone. That's all right. Not everyone needs someone. He hovered nearby, watching my hands more than the yard. After a few minutes, he smiled. Make a great chicken soup. Lunch is almost ready. I muttered thanks and kept working, though my stomach was starting to grumble. He didn't go back inside right away. You ever sleep in your car? I blinked, stood up. No. Why? Just wondering. Sometimes life gets tight and you find yourself alone in a parking lot thinking, how did I get here? I wiped sweat from my face. I'm good, really. Of course. He smiled again. It didn't reach his eyes. By noon, I'd finished the fence line and started stacking the old wood by the shed. That's when Kinney called out from the back door. Come eat before it gets cold. I hesitated. Calvin's warning echoed in my head. Don't go in anyone's house. Craigslist is where caution goes to die. But I was starving, and the yard work was legit so far. Inside, the house was quiet. Still, no radio, no hum of a fridge, just walls that hadn't seen sunlight in years. There were no family photos, no clutter, just blank beige walls, a thin rug, and a ticking clock that sounded louder than it should. He served soup in a ceramic bowl, chicken, celery, carrots, homemade, just like he said. Don't worry, he said, smiling. Nothing weird. I didn't laugh. I ate quickly, eyes on the floor, pretending to be fine. You're good with your hands, Kinney said. You around more often. Strong back, reliable. I could use someone like I kept my spoon moving. I really just needed the cash. Oh, of course. Of course. I finished the bowl and stood up. I should head out soon. My cousin needs the car by 3. His smile faded for the first time. "I thought you needed money." "I do. I'm just on a schedule." His expression was unreadable. "Job either. Hope he's okay." "A boy came by 2 months ago, just like you. Didn't finish the I didn't say anything, just moved toward the door. He didn't stop me. Just stood there in the kitchen, hands at his sides, smiling faintly. I left fast, heart hammering. That night, I lay on Calvin's couch, staring at the popcorn ceiling, trying to forget the way Kinney said, "I thought you needed money." At 10:42 p.m., I got a text from an unknown number. "If you're still hungry, I have another shift." This time, no vines, just stories. I blocked it, didn't even reply. The next day, I searched Craigslist again, not because I wanted to, but I needed to. Rent money, groceries, gas. But there it was, the same ad, same wording. Only now it said $120 cash. Must be okay with dogs. Repeat applicants welcome. Something in my chest sank. I flagged the post. That night I told Calvin. He whistled low and shook his head. "Don't come back from gigs like that." "You're lucky, man." Some people, I asked what he meant. "There's guys out there who look normal, nice even, but they're just waiting. Craigslist is perfect for them. Cheap, quiet, off the books. Who's gonna track a missing yard worker, you?" I didn't sleep much after that. Over the next week I tried to push it down, but something stayed with me. Not fear, exactly. Not even trauma. Just something heavy. I started watching every person more closely, every smile, every ad. I realized how thin the line is between a $100 gig and a headline that starts with "Unidentified remains found." Kinney never texted again. Not from that number. But the post kept showing up. Sometimes with a different pay rate. Sometimes "must like dogs" was replaced with "comfortable in secluded settings." Each time I flagged it. Nobody ever replied to the flag. Craigslist doesn't really do follow-up. It's like screaming into a well. But I kept checking, because I needed to know if someone else was going. I wish I could say I found proof. A missing person. A news report. But real life isn't like that. Sometimes you just leave a house and you know in your bones something was off. I never went back, never replied. But every now and then, I scroll through gigs again. Not because I'm broke, but because I can't help it. The ads are always there. Different names, same rhythm. Quick work, cash in hand, lunch included. I don't apply anymore. I got a job eventually, a part-time delivery gig that turned into full-time. I rent my own room now, eat okay. But if you ever find yourself broke, tired, down to your last few bucks and thinking, it's just a few hours of work, I hope you remember this. Some jobs don't pay in cash, some doors should stay shut. And if someone ever tells you nothing weird before you've even asked, walk away. Not every opportunity is worth the risk. Desperation clouds judgment, but your instincts, those little gut feelings, are often the only protection you have. Listen to them. Always. Bismarck gets real quiet in November. The kind of quiet that makes you notice every creak in the house, every rustle of leaves against the window. I remember that night vividly, not just because of what happened, but because of the way it started. So normal, so routine. I was 19 and broke, community college kid, helping my mom hold things together after my dad left. He'd moved to Wyoming that spring with a woman he met at a car show, and everything he didn't take with him, bills, memories, the weight of holding a house together, he left behind for us. I worked part-time at the gas station on Main. The pay was trash. Most weeks I gave half my check to my mom just to keep the lights on. She never asked, but I saw the late notices piling up on the kitchen counter. We'd been slowly going through the attic, trying to find stuff we could sell. Old furniture, books, collectibles, anything that might get us through Christmas. That's when I found it. My grandpa's old Technics turntable, still in its original box, and a milk crate full of vinyl. Coltrane, Miles Davis, Hendrix. Stuff that made me pause. It felt wrong to part with it. Grandpa used to play that music on Sunday mornings while he made eggs and toast. But life's funny like that. You grow up loving something, then one day you realize you'd trade it all for a working radiator and gas money. So I listed it. Craigslist. Vintage turntable with jazz and rock records. $300, pickup only. By the next morning I had 4 messages. Most lowballed me. One stood out, a woman named Eileen. Said her husband was a jazz musician, said he'd treasure the set. She offered $350 without blinking, claimed it was for his birthday, said she wanted it to be a surprise. It sounded sweet, honest. We texted a bit. I told her Monday would be better. Mom would be out visiting her sister in Fargo. Eileen insisted Sunday night was the only time they had. My husband leaves for tour early Monday, she said. Something about that felt rehearsed. But I pushed the thought down. I needed the money. Needed to feel like I was helping even a little. My mom told me to be careful, to not let any strangers inside. I told her I wouldn't. Around 7:30 that evening, she left for Fargo. I moved the turntable to the front room near the window, just to be safe. Phone fully charged. Front porch light on. I even texted my friend Blake to joke about it. Hope she doesn't rob me blind for a Coltrane LP, I wrote. If she brings wine and a jazz flute, run, he replied. I laughed. But by 8:05, the laughter was gone. That's when the gray sedan pulled into the driveway. When the car rolled up, my gut did this slow, tight twist, the kind you try to ignore because you don't want to seem paranoid. But something was off. The headlights stayed on too long. The passenger side was dark. Nobody moved for a few seconds. Then a man stepped out. Tall, mid-40s, clean jacket, trimmed beard. He looked normal, which in hindsight was probably the most dangerous part. He walked up to the porch like he'd done it 100 times. Knocked gently, not like someone excited to buy a gift, more like someone checking to see if a door was locked. I opened it halfway. Eileen? He smiled. She's in the car. Migraine. I'm her husband, Thomas. Oh, okay, I said, not moving. She told me she'd be the one picking it up. She was gonna, but she's laying down. I can just take a quick look if that's all right. I hesitated. He was calm, friendly. No twitchiness, no weird behavior. I stepped back, motioned him in. I kept the door open. That felt smart at the time. The man, Thomas, stepped inside, made a show of admiring the record player. Nice. These are hard to find in good shape. He flipped through a few records. She's gonna love this. Technics. Monk. Damn. He started asking questions, too many. Store them somewhere else. Then he looked up. Any scratches on the table? Got more records? Hugh, what's back there? He motioned toward the hallway. Just bedrooms, I said, stepping slightly in front of him. His tone shifted, a little less casual, a little more curious. You live here alone? He asked. No, I lied. My uncle's in the garage. Really? He said, eyebrow raised. Didn't hear any cars. I felt it then, the flip, the turn in his energy, friendly curiosity turning into something else. My heart started racing. Then I heard it, a faint tap at the back patio door. He didn't flinch, didn't react. He expected that noise. I moved fast. Uncle Mike, I shouted, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Can you come out here a sec? That name didn't belong to anyone, but it didn't matter. Thomas looked at me like he was recalculating, like he had a decision to make. That second gave me just enough space to bolt. I darted through the kitchen like my life depended on it, because I was suddenly very sure it did. My phone sat charging next to the microwave. I grabbed it and went straight for the cabinet where the home security panel lived. We'd never used it much. Old system. My dad installed it before he left, but I remembered the red panic button. I slammed it. The alarm screamed through the house. It wasn't subtle, It was a full-on siren that could probably be heard across 3 blocks. Thomas froze, just for a breath, then turned and bolted through the front door like the place was on fire. I ran after him just long enough to lock it behind him. Heart pounding, I peeked through the blinds. He ran back to the gray sedan, got in, and peeled out without hesitation. I watched the taillights disappear down Ridgewood Drive. No Eileen in the car. The police came 11 minutes later. They were calm, methodical, asked me to repeat everything twice. I showed them the messages, the car, the fake name. They told me quietly that this wasn't new, that people responded to Craigslist ads all the time just to scope homes, check who lived there, figure out who was alone. What saved you, the officer said, wired, was trusting your gut. That and having an alarm system. Still, I didn't sleep that night. My mom came back at dawn. I told her everything and she cried. Not because she was scared, because I hadn't told her to stay. The records went back in the attic. The turntable too. We stopped listing anything on Craigslist for a while. But the part that stuck with me? A week later, I got a call from a detective in the next county. They'd found a gray sedan abandoned outside a boarded-up farmhouse. Inside were power tools, electronics, even kitchen appliances, all stolen, and a printed list. Craigslist ads. Mine was on there. Date and time noted, circled in red ink. I didn't ask what else they found. I didn't want to know. That weekend, my mom changed the locks and had a new system installed. We started using Facebook Marketplace instead, only meeting people in grocery store parking lots during daylight hours. I started using a fake name for listings, made a burner email, took a self-defense course with Blake, just to have something in my back pocket. Nothing ever came of the incident. No arrests, no follow-up. The police had enough to file a report, but not enough to charge anyone. Craigslist doesn't verify accounts. And Eileen? That was probably just a name he picked at random. I think about it sometimes. How close it came. How fast it all happened. That night didn't end with anyone getting hurt. But it could have. And what gets me is how normal it all seemed, right up until it didn't. The guy was polite, clean, friendly. No red flags until they were all red. We live in a world where people think evil announces itself. Creepy eyes, wild hair, dirty clothes. But the truth is, it's the opposite. Danger wears a clean coat and smiles wide. It knocks softly, uses first names, says please. That's what makes it a trap. I still help my mom with bills, still dig through the attic sometimes, but the turntable stays put. Grandpa wouldn't care about the money. He'd care that we're safe. And I'll never forget what the officer told me before he left that night. Craigslist makes it easy to find buyers, he said, but it also makes it easy to find victims. Never ignore your instincts. It doesn't matter how friendly someone seems. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Your safety is worth more than any sale. Always meet in public, never alone. And remember, no transaction is worth your life. People always say you find yourself after a breakup, but they don't tell you how messy that process can be, especially when the relationship you're leaving nearly hollowed you out. By the time I finally left Shannon, I was 33, broke, and scraping the bottom of what little self-worth I had left. She had this way of shrinking me, little by little, until I started apologizing for things like watching TV too loud or spending $20 without asking. The last straw was one of those nights where the fight goes in circles for hours and ends in silence so loud, it rings. I packed a single duffel and left before sunrise. I didn't even take the coffee pot. The apartment I found east of Albuquerque was the cheapest thing listed with a working toilet. 1 bedroom, beige carpet, ceiling fan that wobbled when you turned it on. But it was mine. For the first time in years, I didn't need anyone's permission to eat cereal for dinner or leave dishes in the sink overnight. That kind of freedom feels holy when you've been without it. Problem was, the place didn't come with a fridge. I spent the first 3 weeks living out of a cooler packed with ice and sandwich meat. trying to avoid food poisoning. My job at the warehouse barely covered rent, and anything I found new was either overpriced or on back order for months. Facebook Marketplace was a joke. People either ghosted or flaked. So I turned to Craigslist with all its weird vibes and murder mystery energy. I figured if I met in daylight, stayed alert, and trusted my gut, I'd be fine. That's when I saw the listing. Mini fridge. Works fine. $60. Pickup only. Ask for Nora. Photos showed a white fridge, slightly scuffed but clean inside. It looked legit. Nora responded within the hour, said her uncle would be home and could help since she was handling her dad's medical stuff. The address was on Las Ventanas Lane, west of town, kind of out there but not far enough to say no. I almost asked a buddy to come with me, but work ran late and I didn't want to reschedule. The sun was still up. What could go wrong? I pulled into the gravel driveway at 4:50 p.m. sharp. The place was exactly what you'd expect. Old trailer, junk in the yard, wind chimes clicking lazily. The kind of rural silence that feels like it's listening. A man stepped out from behind a screen door, heavy-set, maybe mid-50s, in a Broncos hoodie stained with something that looked like drywall dust. "You here for the fridge?" he asked. "Yeah, Nora said you'd be around." "Name's Dean," he said, holding the door. "It's in the garage. Come on." And that's how it started, with a man I didn't know, a fridge I didn't need that bad, and a part of me I didn't realize was still soft enough to ignore my instincts. The garage was one of those standalone metal jobs, wide enough for a car, with an overhead door that was half open and rattling in the wind. Inside was dim. A single bulb hung from a cord above, swaying gently, making shadows shift like something was breathing. It smelled like sawdust, rubber, and rust. Dean motioned for me to follow, and I stepped in. The fridge was in the back corner, unplugged but clean-looking. White exterior, small dent on the left side, but nothing serious. "That's it," Dean grunted, walking over. "My niece moved out. Don't need it no more." I nodded, eyeing it. "Looks good. No mold?" He yanked the door open. "See for yourself." Clean interior, not sparkling but no funk either. It seemed normal. Dean stood beside it, arms crossed, watching me like he was waiting for a test result. I tried not to act weird, but something was already off. He hadn't asked my name, hadn't offered a price or handshake. He just stood there. Then I saw it, on a workbench near the wall. A folded sheet of paper, looked like a printout of our Craigslist messages. My stomach dropped when I saw my full name encircled in pen, timestamp just beneath it. He hadn't just printed it, he'd studied it. I tried to play it cool. Help, but he got stuck in traffic. Oh crap, I think I left my dolly in my buddy's car. He was gonna come. Dean tilted his head. "So you came alone?" I smiled, keeping my voice light. "For now. But I texted him the address. He should be here in 10. He didn't say anything, just stood there scratching the patchy hair on his jaw. I was already backing toward the door. "It's only $60, he said flatly. "You sure you want it?" "Yeah, I'll go grab the cash from the car," I said, voice calm, casual. "Be right back." As I turned, something caught my eye beneath a tarp near the wall, another fridge. Same model, but older. The handle was busted, and there was a dark red stain near the bottom corner. Old, dried. Could have been anything, but my brain whispered otherwise. I didn't wait to find out. I kept my pace steady. Didn't run, didn't look back, just walked briskly like someone late for a meeting. The air outside felt thick, like it hadn't moved all day. When I reached my car, I unlocked it in a single fluid motion, slid inside, and hit the lock button before I even breathed. That's when I looked in the mirror. Dean was standing at the edge of the garage in the gravel, watching me. Not waving, not yelling, just watching, like he was memorizing the make of my car, the plates, the shape of me behind the wheel. I started the engine, backed out slowly, then turned onto the main road and didn't let myself look back again until I was 5 miles away. I didn't call the cops. What would I say? That a guy gave me weird vibes and had a fridge with a stain on it? Craigslist is full of stories like that. I tried to talk myself down. Maybe Dean was just odd. Maybe he printed the messages because he was old school. Maybe the fridge in the corner really was just dirty. But the feeling wouldn't leave. It stayed with me through dinner, through sleep, through the next day at work. The way he hovered, the way the paper was marked, the second fridge. 3 nights later, I was sitting on the couch, half watching reruns, when a news alert flashed across my phone. Local teen missing after appliance pickup. Last seen, Las Ventanas Lane. A 19-year-old kid, delivery driver, drove out to a rural property to grab a washer. Never came back. The name of the road punched me in the chest. I didn't hesitate that time. I called the tip line, gave them the address, Dean's name, everything I remembered, every detail down to the Broncos hoodie and the busted mini fridge with the reddish stain. They asked if I was willing to give my name. I said no. I didn't want to be part of it. I didn't want the story following me. But I gave them enough. A week later, I checked the news obsessively. Finally, I found an article buried under local crime updates. Police investigate property on Las Ventanas Lane. Residence empty, listing deleted, garage padlocked. They didn't find the kid, at least not yet. The article didn't mention a man named Dean or a fridge, but I knew what they were looking for. I knew what I'd walked away from, and I knew how easily it could have been me. Some of my friends roll their eyes when I tell the story. One of them laughed and said, "Maybe he was just weird. Not everything's a horror movie." Dude, maybe. But every time I open my own fridge now, bright white light spilling over milk jugs and leftovers, I think of that garage. I think of the tarp. I think of the swinging light bulb and the box with my name printed in bold. And I think about the kid who never came back. It's been over a year. I don't use Craigslist anymore. I found a decent fridge through a neighbor eventually, paid $100 and carried it upstairs by myself, back screaming the whole time. Worth it. I still live in that little 1-bedroom east of Albuquerque. The place has grown on me. The ceiling fan still wobbles, and the carpet still smells weird after it rains, but it's quiet, safe, mine. Sometimes I tell the story when I'm drunk, or when people talk about close calls. But most days I keep it to myself, like a bruise under a shirt no one sees. That experience taught me something I didn't expect. You don't always need a big flashing warning to know when something's wrong. Sometimes the smallest thing, a look, a printed email, a stain where it shouldn't be, is all the warning you'll get. And your survival depends on whether you listen. Because in that garage, the light wasn't dark enough to hide the truth. Not for me. But for someone else, it was too late. Always trust your instincts. When something feels off, no matter how small, listen. Fear of being rude or overreacting isn't worth risking your safety. Especially in a world where desperation can blind us to danger, you owe it to yourself to walk away when something doesn't feel right. No object, gig, or deal is ever worth your life. People talk about fresh starts like they're this clean slate. A new apartment, new zip code, new you. What they never talk about is how loud the silence can get when you move into a place alone for the first time in 7 years. I'd just walked out of a long-term relationship with a man who, in the end, didn't want the same life I did. No shouting, no cheating, nothing dramatic. Just a slow fade into different futures. And when I left Micah, I left everything. The couch, the dishes, the bed frame we picked out together at IKEA. I took my cat, a couple suitcases, and the deepest loneliness I'd ever felt. My new apartment was small, tucked on the edge of Pasadena, Texas. A second-floor unit with beige walls and that weird smell like the previous tenant smoked out the window. But it was mine, and I was determined to make it feel like home. I bought things slowly. A folding table from Facebook Marketplace, a lamp from the Goodwill over on Spencer Highway. Every piece I picked out myself. For once, nobody was telling me what color matched what. It felt good. Then came the dresser. I was tired of living out of bins and laundry baskets. So I went back to Craigslist even though Sierra, my friend from back in Austin, had warned me about it more than once. Craigslist is like roulette, she always said. You'll either find a good deal or someone who wants to wear your skin. Still, I found a listing that sounded decent. Solid wood 6-drawer dresser. Just one handle missing. $30. Will help load. Message for details. It was posted just a few hours earlier. Seller's name was Eli. His responses were quick, a little too quick. He asked more questions than I expected for a used furniture deal. Where's your place? Upstairs or down? You'll be alone, right? Just so I don't waste my brother's time. I brushed it off. Maybe he was just trying to coordinate loading it. I was cautious but not paranoid. I agreed to meet him at a public spot, an old Payless parking lot off Crenshaw just before 7. It was familiar, close to home, and technically still open to the public even though the building had been empty for years. At 6:55 p.m. that Monday, I pulled up. There he was. White van, backed into the corner near a busted light post. Driver's side door open, Eli standing beside it like he'd been waiting. Tall, calm-looking, late 30s, maybe older. He wore a windbreaker even though it was already 82 degrees, and his smile never quite reached his eyes. "You Callie?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, stepping out but keeping my keys tight in my hand. "You got the dresser?" "Right in the back." He motioned to the van, carrying it alone. "Want help getting it upstairs?" "It's real solid, heavy though. Might be tough." I shook my head. "I'll manage." He paused. "I thought you'd be taller." That stopped me. "What?" Eli laughed. "Your voice in the messages. I just imagined someone taller." But I hadn't sent any voice messages. My stomach sank. Something was off. I told myself not to panic, to stay neutral. Don't let your face give it away. He opened the back of the van and pointed at the dresser. It was real, banged up but heavy looking. Real wood, just like the ad. A couple paint chips, one handle missing but otherwise intact. "Take your time looking at it," Eli said, like he was being polite. "You know, if your apartment's close, I could just follow you, help you carry it in. It's kind of a pain solo." "I'm okay," I said too quickly. He took a step closer, just one, but it was enough. "You sure? I mean, your back's probably still strained, right?" That stopped me cold. My hand froze on the car door handle. I didn't say anything about my back. Eli's expression didn't change. Still calm, still smiling. But he said nothing. I had pulled a muscle in my back 2 days ago. I'd made a comment about it on a public Facebook post. Nothing more than pulled something lifting groceries. 30 is the new 80 type of thing. Harmless. Or so I thought. Now I was standing across from a man who shouldn't have known that, shouldn't have known my voice, my injury, or that I lived off Shell Street like he mentioned in one of his earlier texts. "You good?" he asked. I didn't answer. I just said, "My neighbor Luis is inside. He can help carry it." He finally backed off. Fair enough. I got in my car, locked the doors fast, and drove off without looking back. That should have been the end of it. That night, I barely slept. I fed my cat, Scout, and kept checking the blinds like some old crime show widow. Around 9:30 I made tea, tried to watch something dumb on TV. At 10:17 I saw it. A white van. Same model, same busted passenger mirror. It rolled slow past my building, lights off, engine low. I ducked back from the window, heart hammering so loud I could hear it in my ears. I called the non-emergency line and filed a report. The woman on the phone was polite but sounded tired. "Did he say or do anything threatening?" "No, but he knew things. Stuff I didn't tell him." "Okay, we'll make a note. If you see the van again, call us right away." I didn't know what I expected. Maybe a patrol car, maybe some kind of confirmation that I wasn't just being dramatic. But nothing came. At 2:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You forgot your change, want me to bring it by?" I never gave him my number. I stared at the message until the screen went dark. Then I blocked it. Then I threw my phone under the pillow like that would make it stop existing. But it didn't. The next morning, I went straight to Walmart and bought a doorbell camera. Luis, the neighbor across the hall, quiet guy, maybe mid-40s, always wore socks with sandals, saw me fiddling with it in the hallway. "You good?" he asked. "Just being cautious." He nodded slowly. "That guy in the van?" I stopped. "You saw him?" "Pulled up slow last night. I was outside smoking. Didn't like how he looked at your window. You want, I can keep an eye out. I'm usually home nights." I didn't know Luis well, but in that moment, he might have been the only person who felt real. I thanked him, meant it. I filed a complaint with Craigslist, but the ad was already gone, vanished, like it was never there. For weeks, every time I saw a white van at the grocery store parked near work, turning out of a side street, my stomach clenched. I started taking new routes home, kept my phone location off, locked the door behind me even just to take out the trash. I never heard from Eli again, but I don't think he was ever really gone. Not right away. He watched. He waited, and when I said no, he backed off. But not because he respected it, because someone else was watching too. Eventually, the fear dulled. I bought a dresser from a real store, paid more than I wanted to, but I needed it to feel solid, not just the furniture, but the choice. Luis kept checking in. Small things. "You good?" Texts, waving when I got home. He helped me carry up a heavy box one Saturday. We weren't friends exactly, but sometimes you don't need friends, you need someone who sees you. I never got a name for Eli, never found out if he had a record, but I kept that door camera running every day, and I saved the message he sent, in case. I still scroll Craigslist sometimes looking for cheap stuff, but I've learned to ask the right questions now, and more importantly, to listen when something feels off, even just a little. It's never just a little. Scout still sleeps at the foot of my bed. The dresser sits in the corner. It's real, it's heavy, and it's mine. Because the truth is, there's no such thing as harmless curiosity, not when it comes wrapped in van doors and too many questions. There's no such thing as just furniture, not when someone's using it to get closer to you. Trust your gut. Silence isn't safety, and no piece of furniture is ever worth your peace of mind. There's a version of loneliness people don't really talk about. It's not loud or sharp or even especially painful. It's quiet. It's waking up and realizing you haven't heard your name spoken kindly in days. It's walking home and knowing no one wonders if you got there safely. I wasn't heartbroken when my last relationship ended. I was worn out, quietly relieved, but something in me still ached to be seen. I was 25, working on my graduate thesis in comparative literature, which mostly meant drowning in PDFs and spending entire days rereading the same paragraph. My roommate, Callie, kept me afloat. She was the extrovert of the two of us, protective, funny in a dry, cutting way. She once told me, "If you're going to date someone again, make sure he doesn't use the word enlightened to describe himself." Fair enough. My last ex had. Anyway, this all started because I needed a bookshelf. I didn't want something new or expensive, just something stable enough to hold my stack of battered poetry books and my growing collection of used journals. Walmart furniture had betrayed me twice already, so I browsed Craigslist. That strange, stubborn corner of the internet where things are still raw and human. The ad was simple. Gently used oak bookshelf, $25, still smells like wood polish, perfect for books or plants, can deliver locally. I replied. The seller's name was Drew. He offered to bring it to my place, but I didn't want a stranger knowing my address. I suggested meeting at a coffee shop off Prince Avenue, Saturday at 2:15, February 10th. He arrived on time in a dusty hatchback with the shelf in the back, wrapped in a blue moving blanket. He looked like someone who might spend weekends sketching people without asking. Wavy hair, faded denim jacket, hands with ink stains. "Didn't think it'd be this small," I said, looking at the shelf. "Didn't think you'd be this pretty," he said without missing a beat. It was the kind of line that should have made me roll my eyes, but something in his tone made it feel harmless, almost sweet. We ended up sitting outside the shop, sipping coffee and talking about all the weird professors in our lives, our mutual hatred of self-checkout machines, and the kind of bookstores that smell like mildew and history. He told me he did freelance art projects. "I like not being pinned down," he said. I nodded. "That must be freeing." "You seem real," he said suddenly. The word startled me, not in a creepy way. It just, landed, like something slipping into place. I didn't say anything, just smiled and looked down. He asked for my number. I gave it to him. Later that night, Callie wasn't thrilled. "Number? Naomi. That's how people disappear. You met him through Craigslist and gave him your..." But I shook my head. "It's not like that, he's fine." It felt normal. Better than normal. I didn't know then that normal can sometimes wear a costume. Drew and I started texting the next day. It began with a meme about a pretentious coffee order. Then a song. Then a list of books we hated for the same reasons. His messages were thoughtful in this effortless way, like he'd been reading a user manual on my brain. He made me laugh, really laugh, like belly laugh, tears in your eyes laugh. And he never rushed anything. He didn't ask personal questions too quickly. He wasn't invasive, just observant. Callie raised an eyebrow whenever she saw his name light up on my phone. "You're glowing," she said once, mockingly. "Is this a bookshelf romance?" I rolled my eyes. "Stop." But part of me liked that phrase, bookshelf romance, the quiet kind that starts in the corners of your life. We met again the following week. Coffee turned into a walk through North Campus. We wandered through the bookstore, picked out the worst titles on display, dared each other to read the back covers aloud like dramatic monologues. I didn't even realize how much time had passed until my phone buzzed and Callie asked if I'd been kidnapped. That night he sent me a playlist. It was full of soft guitar, sad lyrics, and songs I used to love in high school, but hadn't thought about in years. It felt like he saw something I'd buried, something soft and open that hadn't had air in a while. I didn't let myself overthink it. I didn't want to jinx it. After months of second-guessing everything I said, being with someone who just listened, who didn't try to twist my words or make me feel like I was difficult, it was like stepping into warm light after weeks of fog. When he texted me late at night, I replied. When he said he liked hearing about the poems I hated, I told him more. He never pushed. That was the part I clung to. He felt like a relief. Still, I never gave him my address. I always met him on foot, always in public. Not because I didn't trust him, just because I didn't trust the part of me that wanted to so quickly. And yet, when he said, "You make the world feel less fake," I let myself believe it. I let myself believe him, because after what I'd just escaped, the absence of cruelty felt like kindness. And sometimes that's all it takes for a wound to mistake a hand for a healer. The first time things shifted was subtle. It was a Thursday night. I'd been at the library for hours, rewriting a section of my thesis that made no sense and hating every minute of it. I left just before midnight, walking the same route I always did, past the fountain, down Millage toward our apartment. Halfway home, my phone buzzed. "You walk home every Thursday around this time?" I stopped cold on the sidewalk. The message just sat there, bright and waiting. "How do you know that?" I replied. A beat passed. Then, "I was passing by. Thought I saw you." I turned in place, looked behind me. Nothing, no headlights, no footsteps. Just the quiet rustle of leaves and the distant buzz of a street lamp. My throat tightened. "That's kind of weird, Drew. Just means I care." I didn't reply. My heart didn't stop pounding until I reached the front door of our building and buzzed myself in. Upstairs, Callie was on the couch in sweatpants eating cold noodles from the container. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded, tossed my phone on the table like it was a hot coal. "Just tired." She didn't believe me but didn't push. That night I didn't sleep much. My mind spun, chasing questions I didn't want to ask. Had I ever told him I went to the library on Thursdays? Had he asked? Or had he been watching? Had that always been part of it? The playlist, the compliments, the charm. It all started to feel like layers, like dressing a window, like someone performing intimacy. I thought about blocking him, but I didn't, because the truth was, I'd liked him. Not just liked. I'd needed him, or the idea of him. And unraveling that meant admitting I'd let myself believe in something that wasn't real. The next day I didn't text him. He didn't text me either, not at first. Then around noon a message came in. "Hope you're okay. Let me know if you want to talk." I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed, "I liked the version of you I met over coffee. The one who said I seemed real. That felt good." This doesn't. I hit send. No typing dots appeared. No reply ever came. The next morning, his number was deactivated. Just like that. Callie found me staring at my phone over coffee and asked, "Did you block him?" "No," I said, setting it down. "He's gone." She didn't ask more. She just slid a pastry across the table and said, "Someone who doesn't feel like a question mark." "Good, you deserve." And that was it. I kept the bookshelf. I thought about getting rid of it, but I didn't. It's in the corner of my room now, holding poetry collections and a few plant pots that refuse to die. I still play the playlist sometimes, quietly, in the background. Not because I miss him, but because that week reminded me what it feels like to want, to hope, to open again, even if it ended with a hollow echo. It's strange how fast someone can vanish. I never found out Drew's last name, never saw another Craigslist listing from him. He became a file in my memory labeled caution and sometimes longing. Callie and I moved out of that apartment 3 months later. I never walked past that coffee shop again. Athens stayed the same. Humid, noisy, full of memory. But I changed. I started noticing the way people speak, the things they ask. Whether they're curious or just collecting. I learned that being seen can feel good even when the gaze is borrowed. But most of all, I learned that loneliness has its own gravity. It can pull you toward warmth, even if it's just a flicker. And when you're starving for connection, a single moment of kindness can look like a doorway, even when it's just a mask. Not everyone who sees you truly sees you. Sometimes the most convincing performances of kindness come from those who need to wear it like a disguise. Trust your instincts, not just your heart. Love should never arrive wrapped in mystery. And when someone makes you feel like a question instead of an answer, walk away.